Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
When and when not to use a tippet on your leader line for saltwater fishing. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, got Luke Simons. What's up, dude?
Yep, just ready to talk more fishing.
Yeah, this was your idea. You know, every week we essentially get a lot of these ideas from questions that we hear in both our Insider Club. So we have a really awesome community, new posts going up every few minutes now. And we also have, obviously, a lot of people on YouTube, if you're watching here on the podcast, or on Facebook, Instagram, etc. And a lot of questions come up. You can imagine some we answer there, some we've already have content for. This is one we haven't really covered. And someone had mentioned like, hey, you know, when should use a tippet? And, you know, there's still a lot of confusions about leader line. We've obviously done a lot on mono versus fluoro and mono leader line, you know, versus just generic mono line. And there's a countless videos we've done on that, but we haven't really done anything about, you know, beefing it up or tippets, etc. So talk about the question, maybe where the confusion is first, Luke, kind of the problem, if you will.
Yeah, and so this is really a more advanced type of leader. So it's really for more advanced anglers who are specifically trying to catch just the biggest fish possible on, you know, basically with lures, right? Especially in areas with high pressure. So where I find the biggest benefit if I'm fishing in areas like Tampa Bay, Charlotte Harbor, just areas that have a lot of pressure, where it's not needed, are areas like where we were just fishing last month over in Louisiana. We could have been using an 80-pound leader, and those redfish would have still surely struck. But in those high pressure zones, those fish they're just more wary. They're just more anxious. If anything is somewhat not normal, and they can pick up on it, they're gone. Or maybe they don't spook off, but they're just flat out knock and eat. I think we've all been there. You see some snook or redfish, and you know take a lure in front of them, and they don't move at all. They don't react at all. That means they already know something's wrong, and they're flat out knock and eat no matter what it is, even if it's light bait put on their nose. So this bite tippet is really for the leader section, and I now do it for any time I'm fishing. Again, pressure zones like Tampa Bay, Charlotte Harbor. I use it now like 100% of the time because it flat out helps catch more fish. And the core premise is to make sure that our lines at every, you know, basically every inch of our line is as thin and less detectable as possible. In many instances, fish actually feel the line before they even see it. And so this whole assembly is basically having the leader line within the first, you know, 6 to 8 inches of the lure, have that be stronger than everywhere else, because this is the section that needs to be beefed up the most, especially those of us like to catch snook. If a snook gets the lure and starts rubbing their mouths on your line, game over, and you're going to lose it. But it's very rare that the abrasion happens more than 6 inches up. So it's really just the bite tippet is really just that last little section of line to have a beefed up lure, because we call it the business end. That's where we need the protection. And then everything else is all about being as thin as possible while having enough strength to not get broken off.
Yeah, there was a company called Spool Tech, still around, and they started in Florida, and they did something similar, but they put the tippet, if you will, it ended up being wire, inside of the lure. Is pretty smart because they had a lot of people in Florida who were going after those, you know, monster 40+ inch snook that are usually going to be around structure, and even tarpon that have really rough mouths as well. And so it's the same premise. It's, hey, what's the lowest, you know, mono or fluoro, doesn't matter, leader line that we could use to tie into this lure. And then when it hits a certain amount of pressure, that wire that's internal, like on a little spool, essentially, Spool Tech, it actually then shoots out, and now you have a small gap of wire that is impossible to break. But had you just gone with wire straight to the lure, the snook would have, especially a big snook like that, they're smarter. They would have seen it, never eaten it in the first place. So it's very similar. It's a whole lot cheaper, and those lures are $20, $25 a pop to have that technology inside. This is just a different way to do it with pennies, or probably less than pennies, because 6 inches of mono is nothing. And I guess Deeks was one that we'll give credit where credit is due, kind of one of the first people that really was using this. And I think, we called it Dirty Deeks for a little while. So if you've seen this before, so it sounds familiar. We did a video a long time ago on how to tie the Dirty Deeks leader rig. But it is so smart. And we fished with Deeks now many times, and he always has the same setup.
Yeah, he's anytime I get the chance and honor to fish with somebody who's just abnormally good at catching big fish, that I'm always paying even more attention to what they're doing. And I noticed Deeks was doing this and he was doing it for live bait, more for live bait, and just again those big 40, 50 inch snook that he's catching. They're not stupid. And so I saw him doing that. I was like, hey, what's the point of that? And just explained it to me. I was like, oh man, that makes total sense. And so I just started doing it with lures and noticed a significant increase in both quantity, but most of all quality fish. I'm now no longer spooking as many fish. And so I'll show you as far as just the abrasion. I found one of my leaders, and this is one. I guess you can't really see it, but the last 2 inches, I caught a snook on this. And I never retied, but the last 2 inches of line is basically looked like sandpaper wrecked it. This is, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's above that 3 inch mark. This line is perfect. It's not damaged at all. Right here is where that damage happens when you're reeling a fish in. And so if you want to lighten up everything, you can basically lighten up everything but that bottom section. And even same thing for tarpon. I was experimenting. I really struggle with tarpon on the beach to the point where I've literally never caught one. I always catch my tarpon in the bays. And we're going down the beach with my father-in-law and end up seeing some tarpon. And I grabbed the prawn lure, and I had a 30-pound leader that I was doing for some reef fishing. And I just put a 60-pound bite tippet on the end of it and ended up jumping 2 tarpon and landing one of them. And he was using crabs. Like we actually had live crabs too. And the lure actually outperformed the crabs because I was able to cast farther. Right, I had that thin line so I can cast farther. The line was thinner, so the fish couldn't detect it as much. And I actually landed the fish because that back section was 60 pounds, which was enough to not get broken off. Had I done a full 30-pound leader, I would have lasted like 2 head shakes, and that fish would have been gone. So I am a true believer in this. Again, we call it the bite tippet, the tiered leader approach. That being said, it's definitely not a requirement, but it is. I've had multiple times, like when I was testing it out, I would have one rod that would have the lighter line with the beefed up bite tippet, and then other rods with the normal stuff. And I'd be using that rod, right? The lightweight rod. Other times I'd give it to somebody else. And almost always whoever was using that setup with the lighter line, except for the bite tippet, that person was catching the biggest fish almost always, or at least the most fish. I don't remember any time where that setup got beat on both those metrics. So
speaking of out fishing people, so I'm curious, you kind of went through it too fast. So you're fishing with your father-in-law, you outfished him with lures over his live crabs. Did you give him the look?
The look?
Yeah, the look like, yeah, not only do I got your daughter, I'm a better fisherman than you.
No, I wish he was actually guiding me. He was manning the trolling motor to get me in a position. So it was a team effort on that one.
Okay. Yeah, I give my father-in-law that all the time. I hope he doesn't listen to this, but I give him that look.
Yeah, but yeah, again, and it's not many people do it. It's something that that those obviously we've been teaching this to our members. We have the fishing school. So if you haven't gone through the fishing school, highly recommend doing so. It's segmented by skill level. And there's beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And this tiered approach isn't mentioned till the advanced section. And it's really not that much more complicated. You just have to learn one more knot, which is like,
yeah. And let's And let's talk about that too.
Yeah.
Let's not just the knot that you use, but what's the rest of it look like? Because I think that's part two of the question we get a lot of times. Hey, how long do I tie my leader? What pound should I use? Cool. You got 60. Do you go 60 to 40, 60 to 10, 60 to 20? Let's talk about the whole setup and when you would go with a different size line, mono versus fluoro, all of that.
Yeah, so I'll start with the easiest, mono versus fluoro. I just recommend normal mono. I actually recommend against fluoro, especially for those going after snook or tarpon. I've done a lot of tests on fluoro, and I started doing these tests to prove how much better fluorocarbon was than mono, because that's what I used to recommend. I used to believe all the hype on mono, that it was stronger, invisible.
Fluoro.
The hype on fluoro, that it's fish can't see it. It's stronger. It's more abrasion resistant. So I built a test assembly to test the abrasion, and I have a knot strength test to test the strength. And as far as abrasion, which is generally when I was losing snook, it was almost always that they were doing their head shakes and they were chewing through the line. And I was shocked at the first time I did head to head mono versus fluoro. And mono won, and to the point where I thought I'd messed up the assembly. So then it's one, basically do one side versus the other. And so maybe I put the wrong sandpaper on. So I switched from fluoro, put it on the mono side and mono on fluoro side. And the mono won again by the same margin. Like, it wasn't even close. And this was a 20-pound mono versus a 20-pound fluoro. And then I was just shocked. I was expecting different. And then I realized that, okay, the mono line is a little bit thicker than fluorocarbon. So let me equate the diameters and then redo the test. And so I got a 20-pound mono versus a 25-pound fluoro, and the 20-pound mono crushed it. And I did the same thing with the 15-pound mono versus a 20-pound fluoro. The 15-pound mono won every time, and by a significant margin. So
for abrasion strength.
Yeah, for abrasion. And for knot strength, it's actually fluoro is slightly stronger, but until you get any sort of nick. And once there's a nick, the fluoro loses its strength. And another test I did a pull test where I would put tension on the line and then untension it, tension on the line, right? It's kind of simulating, catching fish or getting stuck on the bottom where you almost break off, but not all the way. And the mono didn't degrade as it got stretched and unstretched, but the fluoro did significantly, like by over 20% in some cases. So if you are using fluoro, which I don't recommend, and you get stuck on the bottom where you get to the point where that line almost broke, don't keep using it because it's much weaker than it was to begin with. But it save you a lot of hassle. I recommend just don't use fluoro at all, and a lot of money. So as far as the another topic is the length of line, it's all situational. I usually go with I start with around 30 inches, and then I'll redo it when I get down to about 18 plus or minus. So that whole range seems good. You basically want enough to.
And does that include the tippet or without the tippet? Or?
It's total. Yeah, total liters. Yeah. The tippet's the last 6 inches. And it could be longer. And if with fishing docks, basically monofilament line is much more abrasion resistant than braid, as well as fluoro, at least per the testing that I was doing. And so if I'm fishing around docks where there's a lot of hard structure, then I'll go with a little bit longer leader, knowing that there's going to be pretty good odds that a fish is going to get me wrapped up. But if I'm throwing top water, early in the morning, and I'm not super close to structure, then I can even go down to a 10 inch leader, where I just want to be able to cast and blast and not worry about leader knots going through my guides. But yeah, as far as, again, the length of 30 inches is a start, down to 20, that whole range is fine. Going longer is fine as well. As far as the strength line, it really depends on what you're going after and how spooky those fish are. For me, it's the most important strength part is right at the bite tippet. Like for snook, especially big snook, at least 30-pound mono or more is crucial. But if you're going after trout and redfish, 15-pound mono is pretty much all you really need, especially if it's slot-sized fish. For the bigger redfish, over slot, 30 mono is gets the job done. I don't think I've ever had one chew through. And trout and redfish are actually not good at all about chewing through lines. So, and then on the main part, I usually go down by half, plus or minus. So if I'm using a 30-pound bite tippet, then oftentimes I'll go with a 15-pound main leader, and then down to like a 10-pound braid type thing. But again, that's really situational, and obviously go up and down as needed. And yeah, one interesting, like when I first started realizing the power of this thinner line, it was when actually, Joe, we were fishing in Tampa. It was during the summer, and we found the bay. We were fishing out of like that Ruskin area, and we found some little coves, and there's a bunch of redfish there, and they were super spooky. Like we were literally casting way over them, like we have to do in Florida, and then letting the line settle down. And even that 10-pound braid is settling down on the water was spooking the fish, like total, like extreme high pressure fishing. And so that went down to a 5-pound braid and a 15-pound leader, and going after these reds. And I started actually catching more slot snook that I didn't even know were in the area. I never really even saw them. But now that with that thinner line, those snook, like that black line they have on their body, that's all about just feeling things in the water. And so if that snook can feel something moving that's 30 inches long, and it's a 24-inch snook or whatever, they can be alerted, and just going down that light line actually helped me catch more fish. Granted, again, now if I know there's snook in the area, I'll use that bite tippet. I'll still go with the 15-pound main leader, but I'll have that 30-pound at the end. And it doesn't seem to, even if they see this or feel it, the fact that it's only 6 inches, even if they recognize it, they're not scared because it's smaller than them. They're not, fish aren't intimidated by something that they can easily put in their own mouths. So again, and that's what I learned from Deeks too. Like he does, when he's doing live bait, he'll have like a 50-pound bite tippet in many instances, and like a 15-pound main line, just so that he can make sure that when he does hook up, those fish don't chew through.
All right. So I don't think you've said the knot yet. The knots you're using in this.
Okay. Yeah. And again, I'd be lying if I said there's a one knot that you use and all the others are terrible. Just the ones that I use, I've done a good amount of testing. So the knot to connect my braid, I guess you probably can't see this. So the knot to connect my braid to the top of the leader is the FG knot. This is the thinnest knot possible for braid to mono. And it's shockingly strong. I've done a lot of knot contests. Like a 10-pound braid connected to a 20-pound leader is going to break at 20 pounds or more almost every time. It's shockingly strong and super smooth. And I trust it now enough where I cast it through my guides almost every cast. So you can shoot it through the guides, and you can see it barely has any protrusions to hang up on the guides. The next knot, as far as the mono to mono knot, I'll show that one here. This is thin.
So this is called. So if you're listening, this is the leader to the tippet.
Yeah. This one's called the blood knot, and you can use the double uni. A lot of people use the double uni. I'm sure there's others, but the blood knot has been the best that I've used so far. It's almost like a fisherman's knot, like a normal clinch knot, tied on both lines. The trick, though, there's some kind of shortcut ways to tie it that I actually don't really like. When you're tying from a thinner line to a thicker line, whether it's mono or fluoro, they work the same. When you do on the thinner one, you need to have an extra twist. So I do 5 twists on the thin side, and then I do 4 twists on the thicker side. And if you want to see this, if you're familiar with the blood knot, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you don't, you just go to like search for Salt Strong blood knot, and there's a YouTube video that shows very close up exactly how to tie it. It's super easy. The macro benefit is that number one is it's actually stronger than the double uni, according to the testing I did a while back. But more importantly, it's more streamlined. So those tags they come out in the middle of the knot, whereas the tags shoot out of the top and bottom. And so if you don't cut that tag completely flush on a uni knot, you're going to be hanging up on weeds. It's just going to get in the way. Whereas the blood knot is just smoother. Both of the ends are at the narrowest point of the knot, so it's more like a cone. And then I trim those tags super close. I'm twisting it right now for those watching, and like you can't even see the tag sticking out at all. and I've never had one pull out while fighting the fish. And then down to the lure, I'm using lures like almost 99% of the time. And whenever I'm using lures, I'll use a loop knot. This one's called the non-slip loop knot. Same thing. It's streamlined. It's easy, and that tag, again, as you can see, points back towards the lure. Just helps make sure that it's just one less thing that grass or any sort of floating debris can get hung up on. So, and again, in the fishing school, actually, I recommend just go to the fishing school and that advanced section. There's a lesson on lines and knots, and it shows how to build this whole thing. It's super easy. Like once you do it once, it's a breeze. And a benefit of it is for those who actually like the FG knot, but you don't like having to retie the FG knot on the water. When I'm using the bite tippets, I now can get more bang for the buck on my leader. So I rarely ever have to retie the FG knot. I can't remember the last time I've tied the FG knot on the boat. I just tie it before I go. And then, after some fish, I start with about an 8-inch bite tippet, and then I'll just trim that down a few times until I get that down about 4 inches, at which point I just replace the bite tippet. And now I can do that again. So I can catch a ton of fish and have a bunch of reties without having to change the main leader, without having to do that FG knot, which takes a lot longer. Because these blood knots, after practice, you'll be doing it in like 20, 30 seconds. It's super easy.
And so you like the blood over the double uni, huh?
It's stronger and more streamlined. So it's I think the double uni is definitely the most popular knot. But I have yet to find a situation where it's actually the best choice of them all. So it's like I don't use the uni knot for anything anymore, whereas I used to use it all the time. So the FG just crushes it for braid to mono, and this blood knot give the thinner line one more twist. It's thinner and stronger.
Cold-blooded.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that was kind of the big topic here we wanted to cover. It's come up a ton, and if you want to see some of those videos, obviously, look up blood knot, salt strong. I think it might have been a cray loop knot, or is it the non-slip loop knot?
It's all in the fishing.
Okay,
yeah,
it's all in the fishing.
Yeah. And even on the loop knot too. So just another advantage I forgot to mention. When targeting snook reds, trout, flounder, which are all structure-oriented fish, it's very rare that you're not going to get snagged. Like if you're fishing close enough to structure to catch as many fish as per hour as possible, you're going to get snagged on the bottom. It's not if, it's a matter of when. And again, the benefit of this setup is that if you do get stuck on the bottom, now you can have a 30-pound strength at the lure without ever having to worry about your top leader line not breaking. So if you do get stuck on the bottom and you have to break off, now we've purposely created our weak point, which is at the bite tippet. This blood knot is now going to be the weakest point in the assembly. So when you break off, you're going to get all of your main leader back. And then to get back in action, just simply tie that blood knot real quick, tie on a lure with a loop knot and back in action. Versus before, if I was using a 30-pound leader and a 10-pound braid, if I got stuck on the bottom, I'm losing my entire leader assembly. Now I'm having to tie the FG knot on the boat, which is a huge pain to buy. Or my weight fishing, even worse. That FG knot's a huge pain to tie while waiting. So as I mentioned before, like since I've been using this leader assembly, I can't remember the last time I've tied up a FG knot on the boat or in the water. Just
if you didn't have the tippet and you didn't have a super heavy leader line, wouldn't the loop knot be the weakest link versus a properly tied FG knot?
No, I mean if it's a 10-pound braid and a 20-pound leader, then absolutely. I get my 20-pound line back all the time, my leader line. But if I go up to 30, now you got a 30-pound leader against a 10-pound braid. And granted, sometimes it does work, but it's not a guarantee. If I have a 10-pound braid, a 15 mainline, like a top leader, and a 30-pound bite tippet, that 15 leader is going to break at the blood knot. Like that blood knot's going to break every time. Like it's almost impossible for the FG to fail because that blood knot on a mono line that's not over 2x the strength, it's gonna be the weak point. So I used to always be about, I got to get the strongest possible thing everywhere. And now it's okay. Now I started being strategic. Okay. I purposely want my weakest point to be at the most efficient place possible, knowing that as long as I have my drag set properly, I'll never have a fish break off, because the drag is going to make sure it doesn't. The only time this comes into play is when we get snagged on the bottom, and our only chance is to power off or break off. And that, again, if we're fishing close enough to structure to maximize results, that's going to happen, fairly often. Like even when I'm throwing, weedless lures. Even the other week, I was throwing a topwater plug without any hooks, like skipping it way back in the mangroves to almost like a teaser, like offshore fishing, where I was teasing the snook out of the bushes. Even the lure with no hooks at all was getting snagged because that lure would hit a branch and start doing the death wrap. So if we're fishing close enough to structure, as close as we should be to structure, there's going to be situations where we have to break off, and might as well optimize the break off point. And all this in that advanced section of the school.
Strategery. Lockbox. What was his other one? I'm trying to look it up.
I can't remember.
Something of evil. Strategery.
Dana Carvey, I believe.
Yeah, I'll have to go watch it now. If anyone knows, put it in the comments. Yeah, it was Lockbox and something of evil. So good. SNL. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, definitely. If you guys haven't, we talked about it quite a bit, and I know not everyone knows about it, but fishingschool.com. There's beginner, intermediate, advanced, incredibly helpful. I mean, if you just watch all that, you'll know more than 90% of the people out there in the water. And then obviously, go put it in use and practice it. And if you haven't yet, join us in the Insider Club. Got a lot of new stuff coming, depending on when you listen to this. I won't spill the beans just yet, but in terms of savings on all kinds of new tackle, new equipment, etc., big stuff happening for our Insider members. Our goal is that you save money, enough to at least pay for your dues, and save just a ton of time with our app and our coaching and all the education, etc. And our community, doggone, just so helpful. And now the chapter meetings that are happening every month, in most major areas, from now Texas up to North Carolina, really cool. So check all that out at community.saltstrong.com. Luke, anything else on leader lines, tippets?
No, that's it. Yeah, just although the first time I heard about it, I kind of dismissed it. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to make a difference. Just try it, especially if you're in a high pressure area where there's just a lot of pressure, a lot of boaters. It has been one of my biggest surprises in fishing, how something that it's under our control, it's pretty easy to do it, that can actually make a noticeable impact for both quantity, but especially for quality fish.
It's axis of evil. I just remember an axis of evil. I haven't listened to a word you said. I've just been trying to think of this.
That's what I figured.
Strategic
that's
axis of evil. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. We appreciate you big time. Go to saltstrong.com now. If you haven't been in the community in a while, check it out. A lot of new stuff in there as well. If you haven't joined, what the heck are you waiting on? Someone will just give you your money back on free tackle. We are doing free tackle every month still. Free Slam Shady. I mean, just so many cool things happening. So that's all over at saltstrong.com to join. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you in the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.